200 years ago, the Puget Sound was a lot different than it is today. There were much larger ancient trees here. Glaciers and snowpacks were hardy. We had cleaner water, much more stronger river and stream flows, and there was a lot more wildlife here. The tribes were very well adapted to this environment. We're able to gather and store large quantities of salmon and clams and berries and deer and all the foods that they needed.
The boat just came out of the boatyard with a tremendous amount of work done to it, and now with apprentices and volunteers, we're laying a whole new Douglas fir timber deck on it. And it's been a real interesting learning experience, having to back up and figure out what people did 100 years ago. There's so many skill sets that are used in putting this ship back together that are not being taught, they're being lost. And there's a lot of young people who want those skills.
Edward Curtis gave his club in our community so much. It's a gift that 100 years later is still giving. We're constantly reminded of his contribution because it adorns our walls.
There is so much Curtis, so many Curtis treasures in this place, and that's why I tell people that the Rainier Club, by default, is arguably the world's greatest Curtis museum.
It wasn't until I began the University of Washington class in genealogy and family history, taught by Sarah Little and Lorraine McConaughey, that I began to learn to love history. Sarah taught us how to research and do the genealogy, and Lorraine taught us how to put the meat on the bones, research the time and how did our ancestors live and what was going on at that time.
Hold that. Good. The important thing about portrait photography is that it's always about a person. If you lose sight of that, you lose sight of everything.
This is a photograph that Joe took up in Snoqualmie Falls. I look at it and I actually travel back in time. So whenever I look at this is no longer George Montero. This is our ancient ones. They speak to us, they guide us, they ask us to teach our young folks what little we know for the future.